Welcome back, everybody, to Project Heavy Hauler. We're getting there. I see we're cresting the mountain, and I feel like we're almost complete. What's left to do on this rig? Well, I got to do an oil change. I got to fix that fuel bowl issue, and I want to install this really nice triple gauge setup, pillar gauge setup from Glowshift. I ordered this about a month or two ago. It's factory matched and it looks pretty much OEM, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to start drilling holes in this nice dash or doing anything like that. The 3 gauges that I went with, friends, I wanted 4 gauges. My original idea was to take the gauge from my air compressor and mount it up top and put my buttons up there. The problem is, though, as I found out, when you have 4 gauges in this truck, you can't use your sun visor. Being a flatlander who lives in Manitoba, and I live on the west side of Manitoba, so I'm always driving into the sun in the morning and into the sun when I'm going home. So, depending on the time of the year. This time of the year is pretty bad because the sun's going down right about the time I'm coming home from work. So, I chose to go with the 3 gauge setup. I have fuel pressure, boost, and my pyrometer, engine or exhaust gas temperatures rather. I want to talk about that today. I see all the time guys are juicing up their diesel trucks and putting big turbos and all kinds of stuff like that on them. I don't blame them. That looks like it could be a lot of fun. But I will say, if you have a diesel truck and you want to keep your truck alive and healthy for a long time, in my opinion, a set of gauges, these aren't expensive gauges by any means, but they'll do the trick. A set of gauges to let you know what your truck's doing, what your engine's doing, will keep your engine alive for a long, long time. This I consider to be preventative maintenance. And let's be honest, it looks pretty cool too. So, the main thing for me is this truck does not have an intercooler. A non-intercooled turbo diesel like this, the exhaust gas temperatures can get really hot. This truck here, you want to keep them underneath 1200 degrees is what most folks say. Over 1200 degrees for short bursts, but if you're climbing a hill and you see it over 1200 degrees, you either got to downshift or get your foot out of it because you can melt this truck down pretty quickly. That is the weak point of these 7.3s. 99 and up, they went to an intercooler. They have a little bit more power, but they're a little safer to run. So this truck does not have an intercooler. I'm good with that. I don't need an intercooler. Maybe down the road we'll put one in it though. I'm not against it, but for right now, I want to monitor my exhaust gas temperatures, my boost, and my fuel pressure. Having a mechanical fuel system, which this truck has, I really want to keep on top of what my fuel system's doing, because again, if your truck's lean, that can raise temperatures and you can blow your truck up. So anyhow, first thing we're going to do today, I'm going to climb underneath. I'm going to put in the probe for my EGT exhaust gas temperature gauge. That is probably the hardest part of this whole setup. I've never done this before, but looking at it, I got to drill and tap a hole into my exhaust manifold. I've gone under and looked. I'm choosing to do it on the driver's side. Let's climb underneath and I'll show you what's going on. This is the driver's side exhaust manifold, pretty much right where it connects to the up pipe. It says to drill and tap in a flat spot on the exhaust manifold. So you don't want to put these after the turbos or even really on the up pipes. You want to keep it as close to the head as possible. If you don't, you can end up with lower temps than you think you have. And if you're towing heavy up a hill or something like that, your EGTs could say you're at 1,000 Fahrenheit instead of 12 or 1300 and you think you're safe, and then boom, you popped your motor. So just keep that in mind. You want to keep your EGT probe or your pyrometer probe, whatever you want to call it, as close as you can to the head. I've already punched a hole, and I'm just going to drill it with a small drill bit and then finish it off with the drill bit. Now, this kit does not come with a drill and tap. I ordered the drill and tap from Glowshift, and it comes in a nice little package. I'll show you guys that. It's a little bit tight getting into here, but if I have to, I'll cut my drill bits down. Now, this is kind of pitched on an angle. I'm trying to drill it as straight as I can, but Well, it's pretty thick there, and it went in, so I'm happy with that. Okay, now I'm going to grab the drill bit that comes with the kit. The drill bit and top are like 20 bucks, something like that. Drill bit's nice and short, so hopefully I can fit it in there. If I can't, I either got to move the drive shaft or cut the drill bit down. Well, looks like it's maybe just going to fit. You gotta be careful here because I don't want my EGT probe going in on an angle. Okay, I think I'm going to grind this drill bit down, even like 1/8 of an inch, and it'll fit then. I cut about a 1/2 inch off this drill bit. Now it's perfect. I can drill it on whatever angle I want. There we go. Okay. Well, that worked pretty good. There's about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of thread there. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, now I'll take my vacuum. You guys still see me there? Yeah, you can. Now I'll take my vacuum and stick it up to the opening there and suck out any chips that we've now created. Here's the top that comes in the kit. Put it on one of my top holders. Now I'm going to carefully top this. I want a really good thread in here. Just want to see how these threads look. Dump some of these chips out before we get all the way through. Yeah, they look pretty good. Let's keep going here. Now, this is a tapered thread. It's like a pipe thread, so it's not going to go in all the way. I didn't keep tapping. Once the tap got snug, about halfway up the threads, I stopped threading. Same kind of pipes we use at work for gas piping. Same thing, little anti-seize. This will help later on Tin Man fix. Right now, Tin Man's work. I always say that. Later on, me. Right now, me wants to get this done, but later on, me may have to take this apart. Now, it says to install this halfway into the exhaust manifold. So it looks like if I go probably almost to the bend, we should be where we need to be. So I'm gonna mark this with my finger and kind of eyeball it. Yeah, that's not too bad. The other end of the probe, I pushed it up and through. There's a connector right here, and then I pushed it through the firewall. All my wires and my boost line and everything is going through that right there. Now let's do the boost gauge. Boost gauge looks really simple. Let's have a look. Coming off the elbow that comes off the turbo, there's a map line. It's just a rubber hose. It says to cut the map line and install a T. So I'm going to grab these cutters again. I'll cut it somewhere around here. Okay, put a hose clamp on, push my T on to one side, and install it on the other, preferably with a hose clamp. And I'll just throw this on here. This will give us a place to hook up our boost line. Way easier than my Chevy. My Chevy, I had to install a bolt with a hole through it in the intake manifold. Not the worst deal, but again, this seems a little bit simpler. I'll kind of aim it up. I'm going to connect it and run it up and over. Tighten down my hose clamps. Okay, now I'll connect the boost line. Make sure the tapered end of the ferrule is facing into the fitting. Slide my boost line in. And snug it tight. With the right size wrench, preferably. Here we go. Now, you don't want these to be too tight. It's really easy to crack these fittings, so a little bit more. There we go. There's our boost line. Now time to do the fuel one. Here's the side of the fuel bowl right here. There's a Schrader valve, which is a factory test port. I'm going to unscrew that and screw this sending unit in. Now I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of fuel that squirts out of here. Hopefully not too much. Just a tiny wee little bit. Just going to grab that Schrader valve that I dropped into there. I drop everything. It's just the way my hands are wired. They're like, hey, let go. There you go. Grab that out of the way. This is a nice kit. Everything seems to fit well. The instructions are very good. Instructions have color pictures in them, and Glowshift also made a video specific, and it's on YouTube if you want to check it out, specific to installing these. So, and it's very well done. I watched it a couple times before I even attempted to do this. It tells you what you need and the sizes of wrenches, and shows you how to take things apart. It's very well done. Now I'm just going to make sure I don't over tighten this. It's definitely not super tight. Well, we'll keep an eye on it and see what it does. It's in there straight, so we know nothing's let go. Now I'll plug in the wiring harness here, run it up and over into that hole, and we'll start doing the wiring. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. When you first open the box up for this, you're going to see a big pile of wiring, and you're going to go, well, maybe. I know I did. I went, ooh, that's a lot of them there wires, but it's actually not that bad. Each gauge has a harness that plugs in. This is where it gets its power from. My boost gauge has wires already connected, and my fuel pressure gauge has a harness that plugs in. Okay, so you plug these two harnesses in, and this one's already pre-wired. Then, underneath that harness, there's the plug from the connection you made under the hood. That plugs in. So, very simple. The boost gauge, I will have to attach my boost hose that I've pulled through the firewall with a ferrule and the nut. Okay, now let's talk about the wiring. Each one of these gauges has 4 wires coming out of the back of it. One is black, which is the ground. Yellow is constant power. That way, these gauges, you can change the color of them. These ones are green, red, blue, or purple, or yellow. I want them green because it actually matches the green gauges in the dash factory. Okay, so yellow is constant. That'll help it remember your settings. Red is a switched power source. Okay, so what I did is I went into the fuse box. I used a multimeter and I turned the key on and to see which fuses are getting power. I then used my connectors like I did in the last one. You plug it into the fuse box. One fuse is your original fuse and the second one draws power off there. That way you don't have to scab into any wires and it makes it nice and clean. Okay, so all it tells you to do is take all the reds, put them together, and attach them to your switched power source. The yellows to attach them to your constant power source, and your black goes to a ground. Now, one last thing, there's an orange wire in each of them. The orange wire is if you want the gauges to be dimmed. These are LEDs, so they don't fade on the factory switch apparently. So I don't want mine to be dim. I want them to be bright all the time. That doesn't bother me. If I find they're too bright, I will hook up the orange. The orange goes to another power source and it dims them about half the brightness. So I'm not going to hook up the orange for now. I'll leave that under here. So what I'm going to do is I undid my factory pillar covers, this bottom kick plate. I don't even know if you guys can see that. There you go. Okay, my bottom kick plate. And I'm going to proceed to wire all these and mount this gauge setup. Pretty easy. You lay it over the factory A-pillar cover. And let's move you guys back up here. You mount it over the factory A-pillar cover. You do have to drill holes in the factory cover. That doesn't bother me. This looks really nice. Pull your wires through, hook up your boost line, and then mount everything back together. I'm going to start soldering wires and doing wiring. I don't think I need to wire on video. That's kind of boring. And I'll show you guys the finished product when it's done. Just going for a little test drive. Super windy, a little bit of a storm blowing in. Here's my new gauges. I got lots of fuel pressure going into the wind, so we're making about 5 pounds of boost. And exhaust gas temperatures at about 750. We'll chat when I get back to the house. So there you guys go. Glowshift, triple gauges. They seem to work okay. Now these are by no means auto meters. I think the price of the gear should reflect the truck it's going in. And this is more than good enough for me. I'm not running high boost or anything. I'm leaving this truck stock. I just want to maintain it and be able to notice if there's any issues. So I'm really happy with this. Well, we're wrapping up Project Heavy Hauler. I got a couple more little things to do. I'll bring this thing back into the shop, but more or less this is going to be about it. I got to do some servicing to it. I will do that on video, but you guys can see a little bit of time in the shop and a little bit of money, and you can really take your hauling rig or your towing rig and make it really nice, or what I think is nice. What everybody's tastes are their own, but I like this old school stuff. I like the pillar gauges. They match the era of this truck nicely. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Take her easy. I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.